Less than a week to the tournament and I think I'm nearly ready. There's been highs and lows, but things are looking good. This will be the last update before I travel up and play in the tournament. So stick with me and see where my Red Banner Soviets are at. Today I dry brushed the KV-1s, the last vehicle models needing painting in my force. As with the Su-152s, I went a little lighter on the dry brushing than on the T-34s. This gives an overall darker green effect, but on the flip side, the details are a little less obvious when viewed at table range. I think they'll work out okay, and I can always come back later if the details need a bit more emphasis. It's harder to come back the other way. None of the vehicles have decals yet. I might give that a go tonight. But I've spent the majority of my time since the last video working on the infantry teams. When you saw them last, they were painted and primed grey, ready for painting. I'm doing the PTRD anti-tank rifle team as well, but the only one I'm actually using in my Red Banner force is the flamethrower team. This is a medium base with 3 figures carrying ROKS-3 flamethrowers and an SMG infantry figure. The ROKS flamethrowers were man-portable, and the projector was disguised as a rifle to make flamethrower operators more difficult for the enemy to distinguish. 9 litres of fuel was carried in a backpack tank, propelled by nitrogen gas. Maximum range was about 45 metres. Painting started with Citadel Cadian flesh tone for the exposed skin and Vallejo khaki grey for the Soviet summer uniforms. I usually go wide with the flesh tone and then cut it back in with the uniform colour. This overpainting avoids any grey spots on the borders between the colours. It's also quicker to do and requires less precision with painting the flesh colour. Then I used Vallejo reflective green on the helmets and flamethrower propellant tanks, and black-grey on the boots. The earth colour for the base is flat earth, which should match the existing infantry teams in this company. I'm making the same progress with the PTRD rifle team on their large base as well. The metal parts of the guns were painted with oily steel. This is way too light, but again I'm matching existing teams. In future, I'd probably use German grey and maybe just a dry brush of metallics. The stocks of the ROKS flamethrower projectors have been painted beige-brown to simulate their camouflage as standard Mosin-Nagant rifles. The rocks on the bases have been painted stone grey. Once the painting's done, it's time to flock the bases. I'm using a mix of several colours of railway grass. This is some of the same mix I used in 2021 on the other infantry teams in this company, so it should match. I use an old, cheap paintbrush from a $2 shop to paint thinned PVA glue on parts of the base, then sprinkle on the grass. The last basing touch is some tufts of longer grass. I used these army painter tufts on the previous infantry teams, and I've got plenty left. These are their frozen tufts. They just peel off the backing and press down onto the base. Finally, I did some detail painting with green ochre for the bags, straps and entrenching tool covers, plus German camo medium brown for the bedroll blankets. I'm happy with how they turned out. One of the problems of gaming with people like Adam Brooker and Christian Holford is my very best work can't hold a candle to their painting. You should really check out Christian's channel Painting Panzers if you think I'm exaggerating. Despite this, I'm happy to put these units on the table. I am finding painting more difficult these days. As I get older, it's harder to see details. These are the first figures I've painted where I've needed to use a head-mounted magnifier. These are relatively inexpensive and well worth the investment if you're an older painter. With the painting done, I started to organise the unit cards for my force. I had bought the Red Banner unit card pack a few weeks ago, but when I opened it, the cards for the Mixed Tank Battalion weren't there, specifically the KV-1 Tank Company MS-101 and the T-34 Early Tank Company MS-104. Turns out, despite this being a red banner formation, these cards are in the enemy at the gates card pack instead. Luckily, I had the missing cards in my spare card pile, but just be aware of that. Here are all my unit cards organised in my handy card wallet from Dice of War. I love how the cards stay organised and easy to access during play. I wouldn't play without a wallet these days. So I'm pretty much ready. There are extras like decals I could do, but I'm pretty much ready to play. Let's see where we've got to. Here are the finished infantry teams, the flamethrower team and the PTRD anti-tank rifle team. These are all painted, based and ready for the table. I've even had the time to paint the fiddly details and base markings to integrate them into their respective companies. These figures have the green ochre version of the bags. This matches the rest of the SMG unit they're joining. The base markings on the back of the base link them to the unit too, so I know which infantry teams are with which company. The PTRD stand is for my motor rifle company, so it has the blue base markings instead. Like I said, these guys aren't fabulous, but I'm proud of them. Flamethrowers really concentrate an opponent's focus. I expect I'll be doing a lot of mistaken target rolls to try and keep them alive. They'll be priority targets. The Zvezda 3 76mm artillery battery has worked for me before, and now the paint job is finished, so they look even better. These have been washed and dry brushed to pop the details out a little more. I also painted the bags and straps of the figures and added some grass tufts. You can even see some ammo boxes that now have painted artillery shells in them. Just small things, but they help the unit look finished on the table. This unit lets the guns fire direct fire or as artillery, a nice dual-purpose option. I did notice the artillery battery gets a 4+ gun save rather than the 3+ save of the same guns in the dedicated anti-tank unit. My assumption is this is the result of different tactics and employment in the different roles. The figures on the bases have the bags painted in stone grey. This was an alternative colour I found in some painting guides. If anyone knows whether this or the green ochre colour I used on the infantry teams is correct, or if both were used, let me know in the comments below. On to the tanks, starting with the T-34s. These are painted, washed and dry brushed. The unit is a mix of Battlefront T-34s, a very early plastic kit, and a single Zvezda kit. The Zvezda kit is a bit smaller than the Battlefront kits, and it features the early L11 76mm gun. The Battlefront kits are still all early T-34s with the 2-man turret, but they're fitted with the later F-34 gun. Other early T-34 features include the square external fuel tanks mounted on the rear corners of the hull. These were phased out later, replaced with the more familiar drums. I'm not sure 4 medium tanks in this company will be enough to do the job, but they were all I had the points for. Maybe I should buy and build some more kits for next time. What do you think? My big hitters are the KV-1s. I used the Zvezda kits because that's what I had, left over from when I was a big-time Zvezda reviewer years ago, but I might look at replacing them with Battlefront kits later, if this force works out. These are pretty simple kits, but they turned out okay. Having the very early gun as an option as well is a nice touch. Hopefully these will give me a tough unit for mid-war enemies to chew on. They don't have the speed of the T-34s, and the gun's the same, so no firepower advantage. But 9 front armour versus the T-34's 6 is a big step up. Both tank types get the overworked rule, so they both take the penalty for firing on the move. I'll be interested to see how this works out in play. Despite the penalty, I think I plan an aggressive strategy. Urrah! The Su-152s are also Zvezda kits, and look good enough painted up for the table. Using plastic kits instead of Battlefront's resin and metal works for me. Honestly, taking these assault guns is a gamble. I wanted a big boom, and the 152mm gun delivers. It can fire direct fire, as well as the capacity for an artillery barrage. The big shell is brutal with an auto firepower. I'm hoping they'll rampage across the table, wreaking havoc wherever they go. I'll be interested to see how they perform, or if the points would have been better spent on Su-85s for more anti-tank punch. That's how far I've gotten. Aside from some minor details, the force is ready to go. Everything's painted and ready for the table. I did do a decal experiment on one of the KV-1s, which went okay. However, when I varnished over the decals, they wrinkled. Once it dried completely, it was generally okay, but I need to up my game here. If you've been watching this series, thank you for sticking around. Hopefully it's been entertaining. Now it just remains for me to pack everything up, drive a few 100 kilometres north and play. Cross your fingers. That's the hard bit. I'll try and take enough pics of the tournament to give you an after-action report of how it went. Thanks for watching. See you next time.